All right, what you're looking at here is the graph of the parent function of a quadratic, which is y equals a times x squared. What we're also going to look at today is if I put a plus c at the end. So that would be an example like 2x squared plus 4 would be an example of this type of function. And what I want to look at here on this graph is I'm going to change the values of a and c, and I want for you to watch and see if you can figure out what effect that's going to have on the graph. A we already played with a little bit yesterday, so think about what you noticed when you did your homework. What kind of numbers, when a was bigger, what happened to the graph? So I'm going to move this slider and increase the value of a. Now the dotted line is the parent function, the blue one is the one that I'm controlling. So think about as a gets bigger, what's happening to the graph? And I want you to jot that down on your notes. What happens to the graph when a is larger than 1? What do you observe? Now if I go back to 1, now I want to see what happens to the graph when a is between 0 and 1. So if I move it down 0.6, 0.5, 0.4, 0.3, and so on, what is happening to the graph compared to the parent function? We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but when a is equal to 0, do you see it turns into a flat line? That's because 0 times x squared means that the squared would go away, and now it just becomes linear. And then the last thing I want you to look at right here with a is if I keep moving this past 0, that means it's going to get negative. What happened to the graph when a became negative? It flips upside down. And so then it gets narrower and narrower as I get bigger. Numbers like -3 are going to be narrower than numbers like -0.2. Okay, so that is what a does. So let's go ahead and put this back to 1. And now I want to look at c. So I want you to think about what is going to happen when I change the value of c. So right now I'm going to move c up to get bigger. Think about what is happening to the graph and what happens when I move it down. Now be careful, a lot of us might look at this and think that this is getting wider, but remember when this comes down here, I'm seeing more of the graph now. The shape of it, here's a hint, the shape of it is actually not changing. All right? Whoops. So think about those things, and I want you to fill out the first slide with your partner on your notes.